Marvel country in Manly when I built this prezzo. And this image here is an Amanita muscaria mushroom out west of Oberon, past the Blue Mountains, which is in Gundagara lands in Wiradjuri country. So wherever you can, try to figure out where is all this land infusing our energy. Today's journey, we're going to go very quickly through all the content and stuff because I want to play a bit of a game with you, and we have amazing additional presenters today. We have Kate and Kat there at the back who have transforming tribes and a lot to say about that, which you'll find out then. And then we have, oh my god, blank, Vital Greens. Yes.
Yeah, we got Katya already.
Oh yeah, Katya from Vital Greens. Sorry. I knew Vital Greens. That matters. The brand's good. The journey today is we're going to talk about foraging fungi, because I always get asked about, can I just go and pick things and eat them? The answer is no, but we're going to get a bit more nuanced. We're going to talk about the fungi functions. So how does the whole queendom, or the whole, sorry, just checking something. How does the whole family of fungi do things very interestingly that allows us to innovate in ways that maybe, boring plants or animals can't? Not biased. We're going to talk about fungi futures, so the way that those ways that fungi function allow us to imagine new futures. And then at the end, we're going to play this game, MycoCircularity, which was invented with, I invented it for the biodesign class at the UCIT Architecture School. So it's been trialed once with 5 people. So let's just start with foraging fungi. This is Boletus adulis. This is a porcini. People go nuts for this mushroom in Europe. You can also find it in Adelaide here, because this mushroom hitched a ride on the tree roots that the German and the English immigrants in the Adelaide Hills brought over on boats. So fungi can be very resilient, but they can also be very picky. So this fungi, we are very lucky to have in Australia, because it's quite choice in the eating world. It's a gourmet mushroom, porcini, as you all know. But it only grows at a certain elevation in certain hills outside of Adelaide, though it's spreading. As we all know, lots of species come to Australia and try to take over the world. So fungi foraging is lots of fun. This is me getting some porcinis. Around Sydney, you mostly go out west, past the Blue Mountains, Oberon, Jenolan, etc. You usually pick a handful of types of fungi that are pretty unmess-upable. Even the forestry department puts out a little guide, saffron milkcap, which is an orange fluted pine mushroom, and some slippery jacks, which look very similar to this. But anyway, there's a few fungi that have not a lot of lookalikes that you can learn to forage quite easily. I'm just covering this stuff because everyone wants to go forage fungi after a talk, so I'll start in here, friends. We're starting in the forest with our feet on the ground. So if you want to learn, there's lots of places out that way, or come talk to me, I'll help you figure out who's closest for you to go and learn to pick mushrooms in the forest from. Never pick anything and just eat it. Even when you're with a master expert forager, they're still taking a risk. Unless you've taken it home and put it in a DNA sequencer and figured out exactly what it is, you can never know. But when you're with master or expert foragers, people that have been walking a certain microclimate for many years, you get a lot more certainty with them. My family's Polish, who are total fungi fanatics, and that's where a lot of my knowledge comes in. But it's all European, and it doesn't apply in Australia. So I've been learning from zero and from Aboriginal people here. So why do I get to sit up here and talk about this? I don't know. I just got really into it and started a little company called Mycoreality so we can talk about mushrooms more often and fungi more often. I don't have any mycology degrees. I've grown mushrooms in my backyard. I grew oyster mushrooms, and that's how I started talking to people. I got 10 to 12 people to come and sit in the carport and make oyster mushroom buckets with me, and that was like 6 years ago. And now I've just collected more and more stories, which makes up the basis of what you all see today. So in mycology, I'll just let you know worldwide, it's still very amateur. There are some funding pools at university levels, there's a few incubators, there's a few places you can get a bit of money to do mycology research, but it's dwindling. And the amount of money that various people are putting into researching how to do things with mushrooms is always under threat because there are other shiny places for people to put research money. So a lot of it's still very amateur. A lot of it is still very much done out of love. Amateur meaning lover of. So amateur mycologists are still doing a lot of the heavy lifting in the field of mycology, and a lot of innovations are coming out of people's sheds, paddocks, and I was just speaking today to this fellow who I'll tell you about in a minute, later today. But a lot of what you're doing when you grow mushrooms, they're trades. You've got to know how to manage humidity, airflow, keeping things sealed. A lot of what you're doing when you're growing mushrooms is a bunch of trades and farming sort of stuff. So yeah, you do some automation and some programming and a bit of things here, but a lot of it is really just how do I keep this organism happy? And we'll talk about that in a minute, because they have specific requirements sometimes. So Mycoreality, that's my little startup, I guess. On the side, we go around teaching people everything from how to grow them in your backyard to talks like today. So once we start going, it'll be a whirlwind tour, and you'll see how much is going on in the world of myco-innovation today. So first, a bit about functions. Tell me if I'm boring you, but basically what we know as a mushroom is a fruit, like an apple, and a mycelium is the tree. It grows underground. So mycelium is the white fluffy network underneath the forest floor. That is like the mushroom tree. And what we see when we eat something that we call a mushroom, it's a fruit. I don't know what that was. Anyway, you can pick as many mushrooms as you want. There might be someone on the thing making a noise, Peter. When you go mushroom foraging, you can pick as much as you want. All I ask is that you carry a wicker basket and not a bucket. Because then when you're carrying the mushrooms out of the forest, their spores are falling through the basket and you're spreading them as you pick them. So that's kind of the old school traditional knowledge. Pick all the mushrooms you want. You're not gonna harm the mycelium underground or the fruits. There's no need to be like, oh, only take a few. Pick them all if you want. Just carry a wicker basket, because then the spores fall through. So the mushroom fruiting body is the way they evolved. The reason they evolved this way is to release these spores. You may have heard of spores before. They're like seeds. Actually, they're a little simpler than seeds. And they fall out of the cap, or the gills, or pores. There's lots of different ways that mushrooms release them. And they then fall. The two of them meet up, and at some point they start to swap DNA and create more mycelium. Mycelium is made out of hyphae. Wait, let me show you some visuals. This is spores. So when the spores start dropping out of mushroom, you see those striations, those lines? I don't know if you can see back there, but you can set a mushroom cap down and the spores will fall in the gill line. So if you take a mushroom cap from any old grocery store, you set it down on a piece of paper or alfoil, you'll get what's called a spore print. That mushroom will continue releasing spores, and the color of those spores is one of the identifying characteristics when you're trying to identify a species. So this, what you're looking at here, that is maybe 24 hours of a mushroom cap on a brown piece of paper, and it's spores. It'll cloud a room, right? It'll create literally a dense cloud of spores. Once the mushroom is sporing, it's pumping all its energy into those spores. That's its whole purpose. I'm going to spore the world and reproduce. That's why we have mushrooms as fruit. Then the spores meet, and when they meet, they start to form this, which is mycelium and hyphae. So I'll show you a close-up. You can probably see a few of those little strings up here in the shadows. Those little strings are highways of hyphae, which is little tubes that the mushroom creates to sense its environment, to eat nutrients, to absorb water. So they're tubes, and they're created out of, a lot of mushroom species create them out of chitin, similar stuff to insect exoskeletons, so it's very lightweight, it dries very well, it's very cool stuff. We'll talk about its properties in a minute. So once those two spores meet, start swapping DNA, they create hyphae. The hyphae is the mycelium, it's the network, it's the highway, and then it starts to spread in search of food. And when it's spread enough, and it's eaten enough food, and it's colonized far enough, and the humidity's just right, and the sun's at the right angle, and someone sent it a good thought, it fruits. And we get things like this, which is oyster mushrooms coming out of a bucket, and you can then, weigh them up, eat them. This is the mushroom most people grow first. It's called an oyster mushroom. They grow it first because it's voracious. It's pretty hard to mess it up. And sometimes it's so voracious, it'll even, it'll eat the mold that might grow on your grow box, so it's very forgiving for beginners. So then let's say you want to cultivate a lot of this stuff. And now we're getting an echo, Peter. Came out of nowhere.
Yeah, check your audio.
Better?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Sorry if that was echoing to anyone. Anyway, so you want to grow mushrooms, and then you want to grow a lot of mushrooms, let's say, because you want to change the world and make a mushroom material or something. This right here from Paul Stamets' books is a high-level look at the process of what you do to cultivate. I redrew it here just for making it blue, obviously. You start with a sample, you stick it in some petri dishes at the top. Those petri dishes grow out. Once they've grown out, you give them some more sterilized food. The reason you sterilize the food is because you want the mushrooms winning the battle, not the other microbes or viruses or bacteria. And then once you've grown them out in that jar, you can then start to sterilize more food or substrate for them and expand it out. This is what makes mushrooms very cool for saving the world. Where's my, I lost my thing. No, oh no, I'm missing a slide. Anyway, so what can happen at the bottom half of this drawing is you can get very exponential. The mushrooms, based on how much food you can give them and the strength of the genetics in the strain, you can go from 1 jar to 100 jars. And your ratios get very interesting about how far you can expand a strain. And that then makes it very good for waste-based business models, because however much of that waste material you have for it to eat, that can actually become leverage for you to expand the mushroom and grow a lot more material. I'll show you in some visuals in a minute around that. So let's just talk for a minute about what are called fungi affordances. I know you all aren't design geeks, but in design, there is a special niche terminology called affordances. And what that means is what that material can afford for us to do with it. So for example, this table, melamine or whatever it is, it's hard, it's great, it's wonderful, I love how it works. Oh, but if this stuff gets wet, it swells up and it's useless. So it's got good affordances and bad ones. And the same with every other material that we produce products out of, you know, animal leather versus mushroom leather, which I'll tell you about in a minute. They've got different tolerances of what you can do with them, how far you can stretch them, etc. And in design, when you're trying to figure out how to design a product, industrial design or digital or whatever, you're trying to figure out what can we do with this fungi? You know, how can we utilize it, and how can we then integrate it into making something useful? So I'm going to talk through a few interesting things about the intelligence of fungi and how that relates, and then we're going to go through a whirlwind tour of the materials we can make out of them. So just to start, they have a form of knowledge. Fungi have a deterministic form of knowledge. That means they can do certain things that are sensing of their environment and choosing whether or not to react to their environment in certain ways. They can switch on the production of certain enzymes or proteins. They can sense if it's humid out there or if it's dry out there. They can sense if their tailbone's being attacked while their front is heading towards a piece of food, for example. And so they can seek information, sense, share, communicate, transmit, hunt, and adapt. There's a few more, but overall, this means that fungi aren't just growing in any other direction. They're actually growing towards a food source. So a great example of this, one of my favorites, is the Fungus Olympics. So 20 countries, their mycology teams get together and they select a slime mold, which is a subset of fungus or a fungus, and then they pop them in mazes and see which one gets to the food source first. So you can actually start to see certain ones are more intelligent than others, and they can get to the food source at different rates, which is very interesting when you consider things like them eating trash or cherry picking certain materials out of a landfill one day. So these are the important things about their ecology for the way they can help us fix the future, if you think. One, they break down large insoluble molecules. They digest before they ingest. So they sense their environment, they choose to create an enzyme, they spew that enzyme all over the environment, they let their world melt, then they suck it in and they produce more mycelium out of it. So that's what we mean when they say they digest before they ingest. So in the production of these exoenzymes, point 3 up here, they're adapting to changing food sources. That's why sensing their environment is very important. You know, some mushrooms eat straw, some eat wood, some eat plastic. We'll talk about those later. What they're doing is they're sensing chemically what's going on in their environment. They're saying, oh, I think I could eat that. If I produce this enzyme and that enzyme, I think I can melt that and have myself a smoothie today. That's why they're one of nature's best recyclers, putting nutrients back in the system, and they're very interesting for circular business models of the future, because we have a lot of waste streams that we need to figure out what to do with. Oh, there was the one I was looking for. So this was the drawing of it, how you cultivate at the top, and then they get exponential at the bottom. This is from Paul Stamets' book as well. And you can do what's called expanding. So you make one jar of master culture. It's a very strong, very fresh genetic strain, and then you can expand it out to multiples, and that's how you can go into the tons and tons of manufacturing of stuff. So there's this guy that's like kind of, I don't know, the Oprah / David Bowie of mushrooms. His name is Paul Stamets. He's very cool to us fungi files. He does this TED Talk called 6 Ways Mushrooms Can Save the World. It's of course in my Google for later list. I'm not going to go through them all with you here. But they do things like myco-bioremediation. That's where we're depolluting the environment with mushrooms. Things like fighting viruses. We have an antibiotics crisis that is looming on us constantly. Mushrooms can produce new kinds of things to fight viruses that aren't always straight up antibiotics. There's natural pesticides. One of his patents is actually a particular strain of mushroom that the Raid Corporation bought to infect ants so that they don't hang out at your house. Sustainable fuels, they go into biodigesters, so mushrooms can not only be the core technology in a biodigester, but if you have a different kind of biodigester, sometimes you can put a complementary fungus into it that changes the ratios or increases the outputs of the biodigester. Health and medicines, we'll do that in detail in a minute, and closing these loops, so closed loop systems where we can, let's say we've got a business model working really great, we've got 2/3 of the loop, perhaps mushrooms can close the loop and help those business models proceed. I highly recommend, if you are really keen on this, you get this book, Radical Mycology by Peter McCoy. It's about this thick, it's like 800 pages. He's got like 18 chapters of every possible angle of approaching changing the world with mushrooms. It's very cool. I think it looks a bit punk for a reason. So Fungi Futures, now we're gonna move into talking around, oh, what's going on here? Sorry friends, 1 minute, let me just check what's going on. All right, here we are, that makes sense. Yep, so Fungi Futures, I just wanna get you thinking first around why are they getting trendy? Like, you know, people didn't like mushrooms, we eat button mushrooms, but then all of a sudden, we start hearing about it in the news and we start seeing movies around it. One of the reasons why is they have a lot of these affordances that we can use around the material and the growth properties that they have. So what they grow on, how they grow, and what we can make out of them makes them very interesting for myco-innovation and different ways to apply them in saving the world. So this list on the left is properties that they have, not all of them all the time, right? But there's some mushroom out there somewhere that does something very interesting. So they grow quickly, they grow on waste. They're very lightweight when they dry. They dry very strong. They can actually hold weight to a point. They're a composite material made of waste. You know, like you get corian for your kitchen counters or whatever. I don't know if you do corian in this country, but you can have different ways that you have a substrate that's still inside the mycelium, like hempcrete, another one if anyone knows about hempcrete. They can be fire retardant. They can be finished and shaped to simulate other materials. I think we've got a way to go with that one still. They're non-toxic mostly, if you've got the right strain and you've researched the hell out of it. They affect the human organism. So there's a whole thing we're going to talk about medicines and the way they affect the human biome as well. And they can have a very natural finish. You know, humanity's moving into a bit of a mix between Death Star architecture and rattan and jute everywhere. Things that they can digest over here on the right-hand side. This is just a short list. Not all of them eat everything. They can, through subsequent generations, be trained to eat specific things. So you can find a strain that maybe will eat 2% plastic. And through multiple generations, you can try to get more percentage of plastic into its palate, for example. So you've got a whole bunch on there.
A quick question.
Yep.
You seem to have stated clear about psychedelics.
That's later.
Do you put that with medicinal or?
Yeah, I put that with medicinal. Yeah, definitely. So just wanted to start with this photo, because this is what most people see if they live in a pretty wealthy suburb and they go to a pretty good grocery store. There's like 5 or 6 different kinds of mushrooms there. You've got everything from your white button to your Swiss button, your portobello, oyster mushrooms, a bit of enoki. This is pretty high class. You're lucky if you're getting this many mushrooms at your grocery store. But there are thousands and thousands of strains and applications that we've never touched. So that's where we're going to go next, is what are people doing with these things? So I've got a little loop here for you all to consider, and we're going to walk through a few of them. So the first will be food and medicine. Then we've got some about materials and shelter. We've got a bit about planet care and water, and then some things around how we can actually learn from the way that they think and the way they arrange their networks and their modeling. So there are ways that we can actually have some of our models mathematically, AI, organizationally, and we actually learn from the efficiencies and the ways that the fungi navigate their environment. So it goes all the way to the less tangible. So we're going to start with the most tangible and move toward the more mimetic, if you will. So what I wanted you to just have a quick look at here is this quote: "We need to start seeing the world through the eyes of decomposers and recomposers of matter." Like, if there's one core thought I'd love you to leave with today, it's that idea that we gotta decompose stuff so we can recompose stuff. Can't keep being extractive. So let's talk about fungi as applied to humans. We've got a couple things going in the world right now. Big push on alternative proteins with fungi. We'll talk through a few of those examples. Big source of fiber and chitin in the diet. So nobody's got enough fiber in their diet. Chitin and fiber come very well from mushrooms as well. So dietarily, proteins and fiber, they're a great source of it. So there's quite a few companies bringing that into the vegan alternative protein space and just the generic alternative protein space. Adaptogens and biohacking. So I think on every street corner in Byron, there's probably some mushroom powder business started by someone's third cousin. Just to be a bit snotty about it. But we've got it in the US. There's Mudwater, which is a huge growing brand. You've got Lifecycle, homegrown in Australia. I'll talk through some of those in a minute. But yeah, so anything that's a mushroom tincture, anything that's a mushroom powder, anything that's got, with added health mushrooms, that is people trying to sell you biohacking or adaptogens. And there's lots and lots of arguments online around how they need to be raised and what powders are actually affecting your system. So you're going to hear all sorts of stuff out there in the world around, this tincture is pure fruiting body. Oh no, this one comes from the natural forest. Like, do your own research. There's a lot out there. Disease treatment, so cancer treatments, pain treatments, all sorts of different applications of fungi into proper medicinal applications. Of course, lots of research needs to be done. And now, the complete revitalization globally of psychiatry and psilocybin applications. So after many, many, many years in the US, top tier national, federal research funding is going back into psilocybin in the US. And the US sets a tone for a lot of other countries. So we are starting to see people like the Mayo Clinic and other top tier medical schools starting to open up these sorts of avenues for proper studies. And of course there's legalization in quite a few states in the US now, or decriminalization first usually, and then medicinal usage legalization, and then before you know it, we've got dispensaries, friends.
The mind medicine. Yeah.
Right, exactly. I did want to just put this photo up because this is one of my favorite Asian grocery stores in DY. And I just kind of want to put a shout out because Asian people have been growing and cultivating mushrooms like nobody's business for 1,000 years. This is not new. There's been reishi 1,000-year tea in Asia for ages. And certain cultures around the world have fungiphilia, or the love of mushrooms, in their practices. And there are other cultures in the world that are scared shitless of them. I haven't done the work, but I reckon that'd probably be a geographical split of places where people found mushrooms that were beneficial and not killing you, and other places where people ate maybe too many that killed you. So we want to just thank all our ancestors across all cultures for doing the experimentation and passing down the knowledge of what we actually can benefit from as humans versus whoopsie. So this is another grocery store shelf I wanted to share with you. This is Harris Farm in Manly. This is the alternative protein shelf. So this is where you've got, your keto cauliflower rice at the top, and then half that shelf, you can barely see it, but half of it is all mushroom patties, mushroom mayo, vegan sausages with mushrooms in them, etc. It's happening, friends. This is all I wanted to say with this photo. It's happening, of course, at the slightly wealthier grocery stores first, as it goes, but eventually it'll come through. And in the US, there's a lot more companies now doing mushroom-based bacon, mushroom-based patties. One of my favorite stories is these Fable guys. I think it's mostly guys. And it's just shiitake mushrooms. Like, there's the ingredient list down there. 62% shiitakes, coconut oil, some soy protein, sugary tapioca, some gluten-free soy sauce, yeast, salt, white and black pepper. Mix it all together, get it in the right texture, use the right procedure, and it tastes just like shredded pork or shredded beef. It's even got the texture. Pop it in a packet, and you've got a business model. It's not that easy, but I'll make it sound that easy for today. So Fable is at Guzman and Gomez. So when you get your shredded mushroom at Guzman and Gomez in your burrito, you're eating Fable, which is shiitake. Some other stuff. So if any of you have been ever in a health food store, you've got your super feast up there, your bulk mushrooms, Telixer, 4-sigmatic, there's 15 million of them out there. Powders, teas, tinctures, which is where this crew, Lifecycle, started. They actually started collecting coffee grounds in Perth, WA. They grew oyster mushrooms. 85 pivots later, their business model is selling these tinctures to the Joe Rogan crowd. That's what they do. And I think it's probably not doing too badly, friends. I like that they use rainbow on their bottles. That gets me involved. So that's just a high-level overview of foods and medicines. There's a lot more out there. I just recommend you eat what you can fresh and buy dried. I think eating any of them is better than not eating any of them. If you want to ask me questions about which ones are better or worse, or what's quality, or who grows it right, I'm not going to play that game. There's too many factors in it, so please just keep those questions on your own. So now we're going to talk about mycomaterials. This is one of the most interesting places it's growing, because we will be in a sand and concrete crisis in the world within a certain amount of time. At some point, we will have used many of our sources of concrete and sand, and it's going to be very interesting to see how do we keep our buildings together when we get to that point. I don't know when it is in years, but there are a lot of building materials that could be done more sustainably, and there's a lot of applications for mushrooms across materials. So at the bottom here, I'm going to talk through some of these quickly. Leather, plastic, foam, there's lace, bricks, there's a death suit even, though it's been proven not to be quite as effective as the grad school project that launched it. So this was a mushroom brick I grew. They're very ugly, but they were fun. So we grew some oyster mushrooms in buckets, and then we made a coffee table out of it. Literally straw, mycelium. I think it lasted 6 months. They're not pretty, but novel, right? You got to start everything with an experiment. This is a very lo-fi experiment in my backyard, but basically all mushroom brick materials are some kind of fibrous green matter, which is straw, wood chips, hemp, bark. Who knows? One day it might be shredded polystyrene or shredded versions of plastic that the mushrooms have eaten and combined into a composite. Because what happens is the mushrooms grow the mycelium in between the gaps of the material. So one of the famous ones that goes on in the world is this stuff called Myco-composite by Ecovative. Ecovative is one of our shining stars of the mushroom innovation world. They've got a big foundry in Greenpoint, New Jersey. And what they're trying to do is be a fungi accelerator and foundry. So they want to put the best mushroom growing gear, the best mushroom scientists, the best mushroom computer gear, the best incubators all together so that we get quicker generations of mushrooms and what they can do. And it's actually about building up an IP body of more strains that can be more useful to humanity. And some of the strains that they've got are very interesting to us. So this on the top left is the bacon before it gets its juices put in it, and then the bottom is when the mushroom bacon is actually fried up. So they grow a shape and a texture, and then they add the flavor to it, like with tamari and smoked paprika and garlic powder, for example. And you can do that with a lot of different mushrooms. In fact, some of them actually you can grow the flavor into it. This is just one method they've done. Another thing they've aimed at is high industry foams. So they identified that the salon and the beauty industry uses a lot of single-use foam, and custom engineered foams is an epic market globally. You've got probably between a few dozen custom engineered foams in your car right now, between your bumper and the seats and even the layers under the fake leathers or the real leathers. Like, so many engineered foams are even in this room right now, in every single couch cushion. This little woman dabbing this thing here, that's a high engineered foam. And so they're trying to create as many kinds of mushrooms that grow as many kinds of these foam. Then they'll have lots of strains, and then 3M or GM waltzes in the door to Ecovative, and they go, I would like a foam that performs like XYZ. Please present with me which mushroom strain can grow that foam. And Ecovative wants to say, yes, here's our catalog. So that's what they're aiming for. And then down here you've got an old school, one of their first products, which is a lamp that is a fairly dry material. That's just, that cloche is basically designed to absorb some of the heat, but not too much, and aim and direct the light. So it doesn't do too much, but at least it's grown out of natural materials and it'll decompose one day. So this is them. This is one of their mycelium foundry rooms. Big old, space-sized door, and then they grow as many successive generations of mushroom strains as possible at speed, with all of the wrappings of a hardcore R&D program around it, for example. A lot of times when people are talking about mushroom materials at this stage in development, in construction, the most feasible ones have been like soundproofing panels, things that are going to stay indoors and not get wet. Because there's a whole other level of research required to stop the thing from growing when it gets wet. So we can grow the stuff, we can kiln dry the stuff, and if we're installing it in a place like this that's going to be mostly environmentally controlled, great. Insulation, soundproofing, whatever you want. There's a whole bunch of research at the Melbourne unis on this right now. We're kind of at that level of maturity now. But one day, we want to do things that are load-bearing. One day, we want to do things where the building could be alive and self-healing, right? These are all dreamings that people already have and are working towards. Can you imagine what it takes to get a building material certified in Australia? Wow. This is going to be a while. There's a lot of hoops to jump through, and if you want it to be load-bearing, a whole lot of engineering testing has to happen. Anyway, Karlsruhe Institute of Technology and the Swiss Federal Institute of Tech designed this thing called the myco-tree and actually ran the experiment. Can we do load-bearing with mycelium? So they've got plywood at the connecting joints, and then they grew each of these segments, and it actually bears the load of the roof of this small exhibition building in Europe. Very cool. And I just wanted to mention that there's a lot of really old, making things out of mushroom materials isn't new. There's very old traditions. So for example, the Transylvanians have been harvesting amadou for centuries, and what they do, amadou is a big wooden conch. So it grows high up on fairly hardwood big trees, and it grows very large, and it's very hard. And the Transylvanians harvest it, they cut it into slices, and then they wet it, and they pommel horse it. So they have these kind of pommel horse stretchy things, and then after they've sliced the mushroom, they start to then felt it. It's a bit to a felting style, but they have to soften it, loosen it, and then this is one of the most traditional ways to make mushroom leather. You actually just cut the thing down in the forest, slice it up, and then stretch it out and make a hat. That's one of the old ways.
I think even the Stannis has said how they found, I'm not sure if it was dissolving as Neanderthals, but sort of cavemen, quote unquote, that had kept that mushroom to cold fire.
Yeah.
They were trapping.
So the most famous story of this mushroom, the amadou, is that humanity would be dead without this mushroom because it was one of the original ways that humanity learned to carry sparked fire. So inside the mushroom, you could hollow out a hole and you could then carry lit embers from campsite to campsite when we were Neanderthals. This is same producer as the hat that Paul Stamets wears, by the way, so same photo. But there's lots of other ways people do it now. So this is just from the Fungal Materials and Biofabrication Facebook group. It's on my little cheat sheet at the end. They're one of my favorites because it's just a bunch of people growing mushrooms to make all sorts of different things. And this was someone growing the same mushroom, but dyeing it different ways just to see what kind of colors they could get. And there's a lot of startups now aiming at the world's billion-dollar leather market. I'll talk you through those. Okay, here's one of them. So MycoWorks is huge, like $50 million facility in North Carolina announced this year. And they are, like from the beginning, they started in California, LA. They're like, we are going to replace cows. We want to do a cow-size, cow-tough piece of mushroom leather, which is what they're holding up here. They always, from the beginning, their whole mushroom mission was, we will replace just the thing that goes into the leather production with mushrooms, and we won't alter anything else about the leather production process. Very interesting. And then, of course, trendiness, you know, eco-sustainability, greenwashy trendiness. By the way, Stella McCartney has always been cutting edge as far as fashion designers go. She's actually pretty innovative. I'll grant her that. And she partnered with Bolt in 2021 to make this bustier out of Milo, which is the trendy name for their mushroom leather material that goes through Bolt threads. Same with Adidas, another Bolt threads derivative. So basically, this company Bolt has a way to make the mushroom leather that they then sell off to the brands as a source for their leather. Another cool thing that people have done is fungal art. So what they did here is they were growing mycelium as a substrate, and as it grew, they printed with some metal filings the picture as it grew into the page. So it's a bit of an interesting one. I could see a few applications for it, probably needs some work, but you can basically grow the mushrooms into these kind of panels, if you will. These were done from demolition waste material and metal fillings that were bioabsorbed. That's how they did it. This is a really fun one. Corva was an initiative in Europe, I think a consortium of a few universities that were like, let's figure out if we can grow all the parts of a very common piece of personal electronics. That was their problem statement. So they got together quite a few different ones. There's an algae, and so they did these headphones. There's an algae product in here, there's a bacteria product in here, there's a fungi product in here. And so you see in that little photo, there's a lot of elements. There's a plastic, there's a wire shielding, there's a foam, there's a leather. And so they collected from all these different living creatures these materials they could grow to try to replace every material in a set of headphones. So moving on now to planet care and water and myco-bioremediation. You know, I mentioned Paul Stamets earlier, that first point, myco-bioremediation. So why is it interesting? They're a proven, effective, cheap way to decontaminate the environment. The most basic way people do this, they inoculate straw bales with oyster mushrooms and they line a creek bed. Like, you're literally just sitting there mixing Rubbermaid tubs full of straw and oyster mushroom spawn, and then you put them in these logs, lay them along a creek bed, and it filters some stuff out. They've proven it. So they can clean up heavy metals, petroleum fuels, all the pharmaceutical and hormonal off-gassing that humanity does. I don't know if you all know, but we've got cow hormones, chicken hormones, human hormones in our water, etc. We're in a cocktail of all sorts of transmitters in the modern age in our water sources. And mushrooms can actually be a massive filtration system in this stuff. They can take out dyes and tanning chemicals. They can also be trained to eat other pollutants, maybe pollutants that we didn't even know were out there yet. There's a fun startup in Sydney called Soil Sequest. The way that they're trying to help the environment is to get a mushroom, a fungi, it's not just a mushroom, a fungi that coats the seeds that farmers are gonna mass plant agriculturally via the vast machinery of the agricultural industrial complex. They're gonna wrap the seeds in a fungi that draws down CO2 and helps plants sequester CO2 more deeply into the soil, right? Still needs a lot of work, but there's hope that with every field that farmers plant of certain seeds, they could be sequestering a higher percentage of CO2. Bioreactors. Pop a milk tanker on a trailer, put some agitators in it, put a couple valves in each end, fill it with the right things, the right waste material, the right strains of stuff, produces your gases. You compress your gases, and you can then put them in cylinders and cook and heat with them. You've seen your biogas backyard pillow beds, the big giant blow-up ones. You can do a similar thing with mushrooms. The other thing that makes me really interested is, wow, 50 plastic-eating mushrooms discovered in 2 years. That was 2019. Haven't updated it since then, I've been busy. But what you can do, imagine one day we've got a strain that can eat a plastic, which we want to contain because we don't want it to eat every other plastic in the world. So we've got it in bioreactors, and we feed all our plastic into a bioreactor that's turning it into free energy. That'd be pretty cool. The last one I want to talk about is myco-memes. I can go a lot of directions with this, but I did want to say that fungi have a brand out there now or something. I mean, Paul Stamets kind of started it, but I'm sure you've heard about them more. People associate with them more. People talk about them more. And a meme is an idea that starts to get handed around. And when humans start to hand around an idea, that's when we start to rally around it and get energy around it. And I do think it's the era of fungi coming into a new place. And to prove it, this is, since we love logo walls, there's one back here in the corner. This is one of the first ever logo walls that this woman, Olivia Fox-Caban, created of fungi-based businesses globally. So fungi-based startups globally collected a whole bunch of logos of people that have started those sort of businesses in all these different areas. Food, consumer goods, jerky, coffee, different kits to grow mushrooms, egg white replacement, packaging, office gear, house and home gear, construction, furniture, fashion, accessories, textiles, health, beauty, you know, like there's a lot of stuff on there. Now the two most esoteric ideas for today before we get into our game for 15 minutes. I just think that mycelium's the original World Wide Web. It's connecting a lot of information around the world. And if we start to think about learning to improve our models from learning how mushrooms navigate and use that deterministic intelligence, it's almost like our AIs start talking to our fungi AIs, if you will. I think there's benefits, esoterically speaking, obviously, of how we can learn from the way those networks have educated themselves. So there's a very big cybernetic sort of area of exploration around fungi and AI being plugged together to learn from each other. So you can have mycelium train the AI. You could, for example, have the AI then give a feedback loop to the mycelium. There's ways that we're not communicating with them yet. They can sense a lot of stuff. Pressure, humidity, heat, electrical signals, magnetic signals, wavelengths, etc. So there's a lot more out there. Cool. We're going to skip ahead here for a minute.
We just realized that Paul Stamets is in Star Trek Discovery.
Oh yeah, that was a really good series.
He runs a mycelium network.
I know. So, spoiler alert, in Star Trek Discovery, the mushrooms is the reason the ship can go faster than light. They can create wormholes throughout the universe by traveling the mycelium network.
Yeah. It was all
With actual worms, right?
Yeah, with actual worms.
Oh, yeah. So today, with the next, let's say 12 minutes, we're going to play a little game where we're going to create a waste value business model. So I've just taken you through all these very interesting things that mushrooms can do. We've got a bit of paper here. And I just want you to have a think around a waste stream that you could now be inspired to snag and maybe apply a fungi to. So wait, there's some instructions to this. All right, here it is. First of all, for this exercise, assume that fungi can eat anything. It doesn't have to be realistic today. So you find a magical fungi that can eat whatever the waste stream is that you've invented. And I want you to then think about what you can affiliate that waste stream with. So at the top, your first thing, pick a waste stream that you think the world needs to deal with. And then I want you to imagine the mushroom that eats it, so a fungi strain and that it's eating it. And then give me a one-liner around the fungi production or service that you're creating out of it. And then we'll just have a quick chat around any stories. So I'll give you some examples before we start. These are, of course, cribbed from the uni students that did this activity the first time around. So one group of students said medical scrubs is their waste stream. They think that there's a lot of medical scrubs out there, and they think mushrooms could eat them. So what they did is, the waste box, they put medical scrubs. They drew a mushroom over here that can eat the scrubs, and then they imagined a product that can be created out of the scrubs, which at the time I think was COVID masks. So it was like, we could grow a filter of mushrooms to go in a COVID mask. This is an imagination exercise. It's not rooted in reality. But we're gonna have a play now for 10 minutes. So grab, yep.
There may be something that I love mushrooms and I eat them. I didn't realize that, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're eating all this shit, right? The leaves and everything. That scares me because I love mushrooms.
Not the ones that you're eating in the grocery store. So what I talked about here, these are special applications of fungi. Your normal mushrooms are grown on, if you're eating white button mushrooms from the grocery store, to be honest, in Australia, you're eating mushrooms that are grown on peat, peat, which is a bark that is probably imported from Europe, from the Netherlands. So a lot of the white button and Swiss brown mushrooms in Australia are grown with a very specific bark that is imported from Europe. If you're eating things like shiitake mushrooms, they're grown on wood. So there would be a cut down tree that is then left for a year or two to dry, and then they're grown on wood. All these things where I'm talking about them eating poison and pollutants, that's a special application of it, and you would not be eating that in commercially grown mushrooms. Clearly, just to alleviate your fears, if you're eating mushrooms for medicine and food, they're grown down one lane of the highway, and if they're grown for these other purposes, it's a completely different business. So for example, what isn't a good example? No. I mean, the other thing is your food safety laws are so high in Australia, for anything to get through, it would be triple, quadruple checked for multiple generations. So you'd be fine. No worries. So if everyone can grab a few friends and rally around a sheet of paper, draw up this diagram and just have a chat about a dream waste stream and that imaginary mushroom that could eat it and turn it into another product. I told you it'd be fun. So 10 minutes for this.
Let's try on
I believe Billy was a tunnel, so I was on the board.
Don't know Alicia with how you delete it. You can wake up. Yeah, I mean, she's done it's all like mycelium stuff, really. Size of mycelium-based ideas, and then they connecting your networks.
Not very long. Also, the
She actually grew these. Remember in South by 2019? Yeah,
Well, that's why. So it wasn't actually you know the shark, you know the South American shark.
textile in general.
Like the shaman.
I can't read it, my glasses on.
Once they have had their doses, they're all rubber. They'll be less. Yes, they'll be less corrupted.
We can make mushrooms, they can be our
Less corrupt I support both sides of but in case we can't do it.
The carpet could actually be all of these creating out of the atmosphere. So put carbon, if you put impurities, if you put never disease out of it, it's a forest floor of your
I'm sure your dog would appreciate it because he would just go all over the place and so yeah, it just goes thick and then you just trim it. It's so hot. Slice it
much like renewable energy, if you put too many sort of atoms of
you would know
eat up all these.
Three more minutes.
So what you could do is time of small, you don't even have to fill it up.
Yeah.
And then it turns and then you can your offshoot business can be astroturf.
Alrighty, just in the interest of time, because we started super late and we definitely want our other speakers to get their due, we're just going to do a real quick round the houses of what waste streams and what products people came up with as an idea. So, wait, what do you got there, Peter?
So mine is the transhuman network state. Obviously, I'm going to be showing this a little bit later. that I have become Milo, connector of worlds.
Okay.
And the mushroom and the mycelium. Mushrooms are our sort of nodes here, the physical nodes that you see and connect with, and the relationships that build locally. And then the mycelium is all around the world, connecting us all up in this sort of transhuman, interconnected, Web 3.0, AI-generated, I don't know, simulation.
So you're using the fungal affordance of the network,
Yeah.
and you are increasing your reach. Cool. Any other group got a waste stream and a product for us? This one.
Yeah, the waste stream is all the disposable wooden chopsticks, forks, knives.
Yeah, cool.
These days. The output will just be takeaway plates and bowls.
And yeah, then you put it in to take more takeaway. Cool.
Yeah.
What do we got back here?
What our problem space is government overspend and contract inefficiency.
Oh yeah? Heard of that one.
I'm sure one is a very dystopian sort of.
And what do you produce out of that waste?
Yeah. So one approach would be use lethal fungi to cull inefficient workers. And then use the remains to grow more lethal or non-lethal workers.
Cool. Back there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have an idea. We're going to solve the world's carpet problem.
Carpet.
Too many carpets, we don't know what to do with them. They're going to end up in a dump. So we're going to have mushrooms eat the carpets, right? And then we're going to get them to produce material for new carpets.
I will break your heart now because there is a woman in the US named Lisa Rodriguez who runs MycoCircularity. She was in the roofing industry for 25 years in America, and she's like, asphalt is highly poisonous. America needs these asphalt shingles. And after her 25 years in the roofing industry, she's like, why don't we train mushrooms to eat all this asphalt? So now she runs MycoCircularity, which produces fungi that eats asphalt, tar, carpets, some kind of insulation, and something else. MycoCircularity. She's not in here because, once again, I haven't updated. But MycoCircularity already eats carpets. Very cool. What's over here?
So we take Philippines and Sally's reject clothes.
Yep.
Some mushrooms, and we get new.
All right. Close the fast fashion loop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
love it.
apparently 9 out of 10 clothes are actually fast fashion.
Yeah, nice. Also, you can clean up that giant pile of clothes in Pakistan that we can see from space. You all heard about them? I think it's Pakistan. Yeah, there's a whole pile of fast fashion used clothes that you can see from space. It's like, it's either in Pakistan or on the border of Pakistan somewhere, I can't remember exactly.
You said we can leave it on.
One of them satellites that's everywhere? I don't know.
We can see an air from space with a satellite, so.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's fun. What do we got over here?
We want to have something to eat, circuit boards.
Circuit boards.
So that the metal can be free.
Oh, and then the metal can fall. Cool. And we can then reuse it. I love it. Anybody else over here? Amy?
Yeah, we did surgical masks, single-use surgical masks that we use in COVID. We're going to use a reishi to harden up the masks to make new food packaging.
Or costumes for people at Burning Man.
Yeah.
Or Halloween. Yeah.
No.
And then
they're the ones that you can't break down. So that's going to help package in cosmetics, aviation fuel, etc. So using like a bioreactor or something to actually break those down. Useful byproducts.
And then you can use the byproducts and the gas.
Yeah.
That's the fun part of bioreactors, friends. Energy plus materials. Anybody else got one? Cool. Well then, friends, thank you for participating. This is what your cheat sheet will look like. I will give this to Peter. We will use, someone got a spare sheet of paper somewhere? One of them. We'll use the back of Peter's. This way he takes it home and remembers his vision.
Sorry.
Pop your email on this sheet. It's going to be over here. And then Peter will be able to send you this cheat sheet, which has all the things that you can Google to follow up any of these 10,000 things I threw at you in the last
I've
hour.
got the Eventbrite distribution as well, so yeah.
Does the feed stuff have to be organic?
Feed?
The stuff they eat, does it have to be organic?
Oh no. No, they eat plastics.
Well, that's organic.
Yeah, it probably has to be organic then. I don't know, I'm not very sciencey, I'm just a fan. We need to talk to someone else about that. But I reckon that currently with the evolutionary tree of fungi, they're exuding exoenzymes. So whatever that family of exoenzymes is, the thing is, as we go deeper into the sea and further to the edges of all these extreme environments, we're finding fungi that can eat all sorts of strange things. Like, oh, sorry everyone, I just wanted to mention one thing. This guy up here is James. He runs BioFab in New Zealand, and they're bringing some of that ecovative technology I mentioned earlier over and trying to use indigenous fungi to New Zealand in the model. Because in Australia, we can't bring over any strains from anywhere else due to biosecurity.
Well, and Australian ones.
Yeah.
Try and keep the whole supply chain as local as possible.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to talk about someone that's actually doing it in a startup, come and say hi to James at some point. But James and I were talking earlier today, and he mentioned some fungi have been known to eat radiation, which is, I don't know if you can actually call it eating, absorb maybe. They absorb radiation, I don't know, turn into Spider-Man at the end.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, if they turn into.
Yeah, well, I don't know, I think, you know.
Well, I think I heard, and again, it was Stannis that said it, that at the Fukushima meltdown, they would go and grow big IBC containers of mushrooms of the radiotropic species, and the mushroom heads, the fruiting body, would grow in the direction of radiation hotspots. And it was more sort of accurate at sensing hotspots than what even, I guess, someone walking around. Well, less risky than someone walking around going anywhere.
Yeah. And they've got them at Chernobyl, so after all these years of Chernobyl being shut down, they've seen it as well. So I'm sure they'll find that they can eat even good vibes and bad vibes. There's a whole other, yeah.
Can you eat the vaccine?
Like what?
Eat
The
COVID.
vaccine, the COVID vaccine,
Eat
the
COVID.
COVID virus.
Oh, I don't know about that. What you got to say?
Well, look, I was just I'm very curious to know from generation to generation of these strains if they're consuming all of these incredibly toxic substances with anything else that would, over a period of time, consume toxic substances that we know is living. They would eventually adapt or evolve into something that becomes very sick or something very different from the original source. Has there been any study on that, or do we know of anything where they've actually...
I think there's a lot of cool stuff to look at in that area, because the really weird thing about fungi, there's a few living things that do this as well, but to digest before you ingest. So what they do is they read their environment and they see what's out there molecule-wise, and they say, cool, I think if I switch on X, Y, Z genome in me, I can spew an enzyme on that, that'll then dissolve it, and then they take it in. So who knows if by the time they're taking in, they could have changed the chemistry of it. But I think an important thing to consider is subsequent generations, if you keep them in a box and you feed them shit, their genetic strains do deteriorate. And for example, there's a very big Aussie food company that's been trying to get mushrooms to eat their wheat waste, bran waste, oat waste, whatever. And they found there's a limitation at a 5,000 liter level. So at a 5,000 cubic liter level, the structure of it, the genetics of it, to scale it to eat huge things is very different. Another example is, I had another mate run an experiment in somewhere near tropical Amazon country, and they dumped like 16 semi-trailers of oranges somewhere in some random forest. That's actually huge pollution. It's very toxic. I know you're like, oh, orange peels. At that level of concentration of orange acid, it's actually pollution. But what they did, they dumped them, they left them, and like 10 years later, they came to this incredibly biodiverse environment. And what they did is they sampled that there was a certain fungi that had inoculated these oranges. So the world is beautiful, magical, and awe-striking at all levels, because these complex cybernetic interactions of plants, fungi, humans, serendipity, you kind of don't know which way it's going to go. That's why we need these fungi foundries and accelerators to be able to sample the world and see when do we find the right one for the right problem space as well. I think that it's going to be very interesting to go back to your question to see if, because they're exoenzyme digesting, maybe it doesn't, maybe it does. Or maybe it doesn't for 6 generations and then all of a sudden it's a different mushroom. You never know.
Or maybe maybe because all of these substances have at some point technically come from something natural, this is the missing bridge or the missing link to help them return back into a natural substance even. But yeah, it's very curious to me. I'm very interested about that.
Definitely. Well, thank you all so much. I have taken up all my time for tonight.
Applause for Alicia.
Yeah, you want to find me, that's where you find me, or Google my name, message me on whatever platform you're a fan of, and I do. What?
Yeah,
Mycoreality. I don't Insta, please don't Insta.
Thanks so much, guys. So yeah, Lisa went first. She's got a pretty jet lag. She actually met with Paul over in Paulville, right? Was it Paul? No, who'd you meet? No, that's right, in October. Yeah, so you're going to be meeting him in person. So it's in the States.
I'm going to do his course.
Yeah, that's all right.
Very exciting.
It's going to be amazing. And we've got Katya Darling next. I think we're just going to go straight afterwards because, you know, she's going to go back all the way to the Central Coast. Round of applause for Katya.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Alicia. That was amazing. I think I've learned in the last 30 minutes more about mushrooms than in the last couple of years. All right, so today I'm talking about longevity. How many longevity enthusiasts do we have here? People who are sort of aware about basics of longevity. Great. So, what I'm going to be talking about today, some of you may have heard. So some things may not be new to you, but please bear with me because I would like to thread it in a story and connect the dots about everything I'm going to be talking. So let's start with the major thing in aging. So there are 9 hallmarks of aging. You may have heard about that. Things like, and I'll list a couple biological names like genomic instability, epigenetic alterations, dysregulated nutrient sensing, cellular senescence, and things like that. So there are 9 of them. And today I would like to focus on three hallmarks of aging. One is genomic instability. Second one is epigenetic alterations, and the third one is cellular senescence. And I'll explain what all these things mean while I'm going to be talking about this. Let's dive into a microscopic level, cellular. So DNA in the cells is organized by a system of epigenetic markers. Do you know the difference between genome and epigenome? So I'll quickly explain what it is. Genome is like a hardware in our bodies, and epigenome is a software. So all our genes are instructed and orchestrated by epigenome, and epigenome gives identity to cells, hence cells know how to behave and how not to turn from a liver cell to a lung cell, for example, and how to remain the same function. There are epigenetic biomarkers, and they influence the functions of the cells and everything in our bodies. And so those epigenetic markers, they mostly are for gene expression. This is what they do. They regulate gene expression. They turn on and off certain genes at certain times. And they also make sure that the cells function in the way they're supposed to be functioning. So over time, while we age, due to various factors like environmental stresses and DNA damage, those epigenetic markers can change or get misplaced. That leads to cells losing their identities and starting to cause functional and physical problems in our bodies, and that leads to most age-related diseases that you know, for example, Alzheimer, dementia, cardiovascular, cancer, so all those things. And so, yeah, the disruption of and damage in DNA. This is genomic instability, one hallmark of aging, and another one is epigenetic alterations. That happens when, for example, there is a DNA damage and one of the epigenetic markers, one of the proteins, suddenly has to go from the home place, the base, to a place of DNA damage and do the repairs. If that has to happen quite often, and there's a lot of it going on in the body, then when those epigenetic markers have to return to their base, what happens is that wrong genes come at the wrong time in the wrong place. That creates a lot of epigenetic noise or chaos in the system, and that is one, again, of major problems of why we age and mutations in our bodies. So, of course, luckily, this could be influenced by the way how we live, and there was a research and scientific paper in 2019 talking about that only 5% of our health outcomes are influenced by our genes. 95% of our health outcomes are influenced by our lifestyle choices. Surprise, surprise. So that's very important. And of course, what can you do to, disrupt those mutations and make sure there is not too much of the epigenetic noise happening in the body, as well as DNA damage? Most famous ways of everybody knows how to support yourself and maintain longevity is fasting or calorical restriction. I'm not going to go into details because everybody knows that. Second thing is exercise, surprise, again. And the third thing is exposure of your body to extreme temperatures, cold or heat. Though not everyone actually can apply fasting nor cold or hot temperatures because due to certain health reasons, and everybody sort of, before starting journey on either of those ways, you have to check with your doctor if it's actually applicable to you, because for women, for example, fasting may not be the great thing, as well as for people with Raynaud's may not be the great thing to expose themselves to cold. So yeah, make sure you check it with your doctor before you try it. So these are kind of the most popular ways how you can support yourself on the way to longevity. And this is the modern day science. But now I want you to travel 2,500 years back in time to China, where at that time Lao Tzu founded not a startup, because it's called Tao, but ancient philosophy and religion about the way of Tao, the way how to live in this world in harmony with animals and nature. One of the major, most recognizable symbols of Taoism or Taoism, it's called both ways, is a symbol of yin-yang. Does everyone know how yin-yang looks? The circle with the white, they're called fish, there are two fish, white fish at the top and black fish at the bottom. And the white fish has black eye and the black fish has white eye. So what all this thing is about? So the symbol symbolizes a balance of yin and yang, of movement and rest in your body. When there is a balance, there is health. When the things are out of balance, it creates disease and poor health. So what we want to maintain that balance via movement and rest. And one of the most fundamental beliefs of Taoism is also that the vitality actually is coming from sexual energy. And why is that? Because when we're young, sexual energy produces a lot of energy, that vital energy that pervades our different aspects of our life, mental and physical. We don't need to worry about it when we're young. But once we start aging, what happens? So that energy is actually derived from fluids. In men it's sperm, in women it's menstrual fluid, and this is how that energy is generated in the body. with age, we start losing that fluid. It's generated it's more difficult for the body to generate it. That's when we start losing our vitality. But there are ways that Taoism suggesting that actually, it is not inevitable to completely lose that vitality. You can do something about it to bring that vitality in. And that sexual energy is associated with the aspect of yang, which is movement, and the pure form of yang is that very pure vitality that we want to make sure is distributed across 8 psychic channels into every cell of the body. This is what Taoism is about. So what Taoism is talking basically is that the vitality goes when a unit, a cell, or human being stop reproducing. This is when we lose vitality. And same considered in the science. Cellular senescence is that type of when cell cannot reproduce anymore, cell starts aging. It doesn't die, but it starts producing certain chemicals in the body that cause inflammation. And eventually those cells that stop reproducing can turn into tumors. So in other words, those cells are called zombie cells. So this is what's happening at cellular level. And this is what Taoism also teaches us, that happened 2,500 years ago, that when this stops reproducing, aging comes. So that was 2,500 years ago before scientists discovered cellular senescence. Here you go, there's a connection between microcosm and macrocosm. So what does Taoism suggest? Of course, it suggests, based on their practices, is Taoism meditation, which involves movement, breathing, and mental concentration. The way it is done, you always want to increase that yang in your body, and that's what it's all about, increasing the yang, purifying it, sending it through the psychic channels. And in one of the ancient books, they describe what's happening through that process is that white is strong and black is weak, and they support each other and they're constantly in motion. As long as there is that balance and a constant motion, it brings about duration. And what is duration? Duration is longevity. So that philosophy that's been going on for thousands of years in China and other Asian countries has been about longevity. And I have a theory that maybe back then, people who were trying to get enlightened got longevity as a byproduct. But why not opposite? Maybe they were actually trying to live forever, and as a byproduct, they got enlightened. So that's a theory. So this is what was going on in China. Cells and cells. And now I want to bring it back to another science, to more modern times, which is called thermodynamics. How many people heard about thermodynamics? We didn't hear it. Thermodynamics fan club. Welcome. Okay, so let's touch a bit on thermodynamics. So there are basic 4 laws. Second law is that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. And I wanted to focus on the third law of thermodynamics that says if you leave a system to its own devices without maintaining it, over time, the system is going to deteriorate. So it means with time, entropy, aka chaos, will be increasing in the system. So it means it is a natural tendency for the system deteriorate over time. And the third law, which is also very interesting, I love thermodynamics. Third law is talking about if you apply cold temperature to a system, then it will bring the order to the system. So it means because entropy chaos increasing with time. For example, if you leave a car outside and you never maintain it and staying there 3 months parked under the tree, 1 year, 3 years, it rusted, there is no more pressure in the tires, it looks like it should be in a graveyard rather than parked under the tree in the street. And that's sort of what happens. And if we apply third law and we imagine that we're decreasing the system, the temperature in the system, it brings order into the system. So the less it will be excited with time. So why am I talking about all these things and thermodynamics? Because I started with the epigenetic alterations in the beginning, that is exactly what's happening in the body. Our system, our body, is a subject to thermodynamics laws. Over time, entropy, the epigenetic noise, increases in our bodies, and that aging our bodies. So this is unavoidable, absolutely unavoidable. While we're waiting for scientists to create magic pill to, if not reverse, at least slow down our aging, what can we do? Some scientists say it is a problem of a software, not a hardware. And of course, they're talking again mostly about epigenetics. But actually, the solution lies in the software, that's right. But what do you think is a software in this construct? Software, any guesses? What is it?
Stem cells?
No. Software? Yes, closer, getting closer, yes. What is it else is there? A product of that, yeah.
Brain cells?
It's our consciousness. So the thing that supersedes any type of longevity method that you want to apply to yourself, like fasting, exercising, this and that, consciousness in your state of mind absolutely supersedes everything that you're planning to do on physical level, because all of those things, you're putting your body through the physical stress. And consciousness, regardless of how hard you're trying to be healthy, whatever you eat, if you're not in the right state of mind, your mind creates a very different chemical cocktail in your body, and it is creating inflammation. What is inflammation? It's when you're constantly under stress, you have environmental stresses that's stressing your mind, and it affects your epigenetics that control your genome. So that epigenetics activate things like cortisol, epinephrine, adrenaline. You flood it with stress hormones, and they constantly tell your epigenome and then epigenome to genome that, hey, there's a war going on, we have to be constantly alert, and there is a lot of inflammation, and that is causing faster aging. That is very harmful to the body. If you've heard about TV series called Limitless with Chris Hemsworth, 6 episodes, it starts with episode number 1, where they consider stress. So the stress is really a number 1 aging agent. What can we do about it? And as I already discussed about the consciousness being the most impactful and the most incredible thing for your longevity, here I'll explain you why. Last March, I went to a 20-day silent meditation course called Vipassana. And after 20 days, when I got out of there, people kept asking me, how did you go? How do you feel? And all I can say, the best. I felt my absolute best, mentally and physically. I've never experienced in my 38 years of my life the way how I felt the day I left that site in the middle of the forest. And why I say that consciousness is more important, it's superseding absolutely everything on physiological level for longevity, because your today consciousness is printing your tomorrow's body. And by that I mean the effects it has, whether it's in negative states or whether it's in positive states, effects it has on the cocktail of your chemicals in the body. And there is now research that's also done a lot on Vipassana and as well as other meditations that shows that, for example, meditation as well as purpose combined with purpose helps with retaining and expanding telomeres. So telomeres are made of telomerase enzymes. It's the protective caps on the end of your chromosomes in your DNA. So the size of those protective caps, those telomeres, defines how long your cell is going to live. With age, we're losing those protective caps, which signifies that the sooner we lose them, the sooner our cells are going to die or turn into zombie cells that will become toxic to our body. This is one of the first major effects, how meditation affects consciousness, by consciousness, your longevity. Second effect, for example, they did a research and test group on people about 50 years old age, and they looked at the brain of meditators, daily meditators, and they looked at the brain of people who didn't meditate. The brain of meditators is, and you may have heard already that with the age our brain shrinks. So the brain of meditators was 7.5 years younger than the brain of non-meditators. This is second trait. Third, we have a little bit about brain. We have prefrontal cortex and we have two amygdalas at the back. So prefrontal cortex is responsible for the reactions, processing reactions, how we react to things. And amygdalas that's what's triggering effect, that's what's triggering us to react. So the meditation strengthening the path, which sort of, usually if you don't meditate, it's not strong, you don't have it, but it's strengthening the neural network between prefrontal cortex and your amygdalas, which means the stronger the path, the less you will be reactive to everything that's happening around you. And as we discussed about thermodynamics, what can bring that order? And that's exactly what's happening during meditation. Your consciousness, via meditation, brings order to the system. Because first, through life, for example, if you don't have, oh great. That doesn't follow our eyes.
Too much order.
Yeah. Bring it on.
Bring it on.
Through the consciousness, if we meditate, we're moving from disorder to order, and we're moving from disease to ease. So it reorders and restructures our epigenome because it releases our nerve system. If our nerve system is released of stress and whatever demands, finally the body has a better chance to restore and recover. This is another great way. What type of meditation in order to maintain that type of consciousness that would be healthy for your longevity? What type of meditation would I recommend? Of course, I'm not talking about apps where you sit in bed and listen to that wonderful voice of a Headspace guy. And you sort of depend on, and then everybody like, oh, but I really like to listen to him just before I go to bed. He has such a wonderful voice. Okay, great, but unfortunately that is not the type of thing that we need to consider if we really want to become serious about how you impacting your genome with your consciousness. I'm talking about a systematic approach where you on a daily basis, at least twice a day, have opportunity to close your eyes and sit there doing what you need to be doing. I recommend Vipassana, this is what I do. And you're letting go of things, accepting things, And the way how we do it, build that neural pathway between prefrontal cortex and amygdala, signalizing our body, okay, this is time to let go, I can stop producing cortisol, epinephrine, I can release this and that, and then suddenly it starts producing bliss chemicals. Actually, chemicals that are great for your health, like GABA, I don't remember exactly, I'm not going to go into details of this chemical, serotonin, dopamine, and all of these things. And so it has to be systematic on a daily basis, and you must go at least once a year and, for example, do those 10-day silent meditation retreats. Why? Because we've passed the point at which it is sustainable for human design to cope with the demands that made on us every day. We've passed that point. And we are so stretched across everything that we need to be doing right now in our lives that that creates DNA damage in our body every day, and it accumulates and piles. Releasing it on holiday is not going to happen. I'm so sorry to upset you with that. Nor by drinking a glass of whiskey, it's also not going to happen with that. So it has to be intentional time when you do the work, when you do that meditation, in order to give yourself chance, to restructure, reorder, move yourself from disease to ease, from disorder to order, to prevent that and postpone that thermodynamic laws applied to yourself. So again, I repeat, it has to be systematic on a regular basis, and you have to have at least one 10-day retreat a year. This would be my recommendation. So hopefully dots connected a little bit for you, why, how, and what. So we talked about cells, on cellular level, cells, zombie cells. When cells stop reproducing, that's when we age. When cells stop reproducing, that's when we age. And no matter what you do, your consciousness will always supersede all your physical efforts if you're not in the right state of mind. Thank you. Any questions? Yes?
What's it like to come back from having done that retreat, 20 days, I think you said, yeah, back to the world of information tsunami? Because that's what you were escaping from when you were on the retreat. So what's it like, having had that 20 days, to return to this world? What's that like?
Oh, it's just the one thing that, of course, is very overwhelming. The world is incredibly noisy, and it's unnecessarily noisy. And the world looks like we live in a mind-designed world. We're sort of disengaged and taken out of the real reality. And we build this man-made world that we think is the truth. And this is how things are, and as more people agree with that and feed into it, the more agree. It's like on NFT, NFT was popular and now it is not. But everyone at that time was like, yeah, it's all happening, NFT, yeah, let's spend millions of dollars, it's gonna happen. And then suddenly it starts falling off, So it's kind of like the world is like that, in the NFT, where somebody says, oh, this is what we're doing, and the crowd says, yeah. But then you kind of zoom out and you look at everything over there, and you're like, this makes sense in that cluster, but once you're out of the cluster with everything else, it kind of becomes comical.
What type of meditation is it? Transcendental?
I practice Vipassana. I recommend Vipassana because Vipassana meditation, you're dealing, so it actually heals. It heals on physical level, and that's why it does that epigenetic restructures, and it heals everything. You don't need to know. Sort of course, in the beginning, you're very curious about what exactly you're healing and which part. But lots of people heal on myself, like lower back. You have nerves in your back, something's pinching. it's been bothering you for years. You go there, you sit there, you meditate, you come out of that retreat, you have no pain. And it's, things like that. Because we're literally nerve systems wrapped in flesh and bone. But it's the nerve system, and here, that's what I was saying, your today's consciousness printing your tomorrow's body. What you think today is going to be reflected in your body tomorrow. And if we're upset or wrong, angry or worried, anxious, fear, anger, it's all going to be locked up and stored in our nerve system and our body. And that meditation releases it.
I think you mentioned you're meditating 2 hours a day now, which sounds amazing. But when you, I guess when you started out, how long did you do it for, and how did you motivate yourself to make a regular routine?
I started actually with transcendental, twice a day, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening. I just made a priority. I was, I guess, on the cusp of my life where I was changing a lot, and I just decided, you know what, it's going to be like brushing my teeth. And it now came to a point like that is my life. Everything else around it, it's not like this is what I live, and if I can somewhere, I'll squeeze some meditation in there. No, I meditate and everything else goes around it. I'll cancel plans, I go on holiday, everybody's going to dinner, like, see you guys, I'm going home to meditate and sleep, and they're like, you're not coming? No, I'll wake up tomorrow at 6 if you want to join me for some hiking or yoga, yeah, feel free. So yeah, this is, and I'm like, I never feel guilty, I don't care what people think, so it is a priority.
And how long have you made it a priority? How many years?
Just over 5 years.
How do you control the mind when you come into the meditation?
It's not about
What do you watch actually?
it's not about controlling. It's just that's why those 10-day Vipassana course is extremely helpful. It's just acceptance. There's zero control. You can't control anything. You can't even control your thoughts. You didn't make yourself. You didn't give birth to yourself. You're not going to control when you die. So you can't control what disease you're going. You can't control absolutely anything but then this. Yeah, but
monitor, watch.
Yeah, but you just accept. You accept and you sit with it. You sit. You accept. You're accepting the reality of the present moment. That's what it's all about. Acceptance, full acceptance of your pain, of your past, of your present, of all your worries. You accept everything, and with time it melts away.
You usually accept this forecast.
Yeah, you're just accepting. For example, if it's a thought, you accept it, and then you continue meditation. That meditation is very busy meditation. It's a body scan, so you're constantly moving. So it's that like in yin and yang sign, that little dot in that black area that symbolizes meditation. The white dot in the black area. So the black means rest and meditation, but the white dot inside symbolizes the mind. So even when you're resting in meditation, your mind is still active and it's concentrating on the task of the meditation. For example, if it's a body scan, the thought came up, the pain came up, you had a look, said, I accept it, or you thought about it, okay, that's cool, I move on, and then you continue body scan. So, and it comes with practice, that's what makes it perfect. You have to give yourself a chance, and you have to give it more than 2 months. You have to give it a year, and after a year you will see results, irreversible benefits to your life.
Do you also watch the dolls? Is it yeah. Do you watch it?
Watch what? The Dantian?
You know the bear? You know the bear?
Dantian?
No, that is not. But Dantian, yes, right.
Yeah. It's just you just body scanning it. Body scan.
You scan the whole body. When you wash, you make your mind stay to see actually. From here you can see a lot of things come out. But because you have a point, holding point, maybe you got most easy to hold it rather than your mind fly around. Right? That's the point that they just look at the tension. One of the but even I think drawing is still from Buddhist.
That's right. Vipassana is also in Buddhist tradition.
Yeah.
Have you heard of a
longevity practice called 5 rights. 5 rights, RITS. It's a series of exercises supposed to rejuvenate the body.
Well, our practice, I mean, the recommendation according to Taoism, of course, Tai Chi, Qigong, Kung Fu. So I practice myself Tai Chi, Qigong, Kung Fu, yoga, and Vipassana.
I find that I've been going through very challenging times, just being a carer, and I'm just so grateful that my friends, some of my friends, they're all on, people go through a lot of things in their life, relationship breaks down and everything, and she has a doctor too, she has to take sleeping pill or whatever, this is too stressful. But I've been thankful that, I feel the whole weight on my shoulders gone, because I sleep. I just sleep. Like, I do take mycelium, some good supplements, but I'm just so thankful. I don't even know why, but I just really sleep, and I don't have any more cares on my shoulder. I have a really good sleep, because I have a lot of sleep. A lot of it.
Wonderful. Sleep is essential, of course.
Seriously, it's just amazing. And you don't even think that. I've gone to the phase where I was basically in the hospital, right? Not as me, but as an advocate and caring, and not even really sleeping. But I'm a thinker. I've got a lot on my plate. Just these days with just drips and sleep is just amazing.
That is fantastic. When you have a great sleep, that's what you want in the end. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Katya. And thank you so much for traveling all the way from the Central Coast. How do we contact you, Katya, the best way? LinkedIn?
Vital Means, I have upcoming longevity and wellbeing retreat. It's called vitalmeans.co. If you want to join, 28th of October, Vital Means. I play a word from vitamins.
Yeah, check out Vital Means. Thanks so much, Katya. I appreciate it. All right, so sorry for running a bit late. We'd like to welcome Catherine and Katie. Let a round of applause, everyone. And then and at the end, I'll wrap up with some of our trips over to Nigeria with the Transhuman Network stick. Thanks a lot, Katie. Thanks, Catherine. Another round of applause.
Thank you, Katya. Thank you. Hey, thank you. Thank you because you gave us heaps to riff on. So, yeah, great conversation. Everyone wants to live longer, right? So I'm Cade. This is Kat. We run Transforming Tribes, and yeah, we're talking about well-being. I think it'd be pretty cool to get a little bit of engagement and an idea of where you guys are at, what you think well-being might be, because it'll help me. So who's got a little definition, an idea, a feeling towards what well-being is? Oh man.
Being, more happy and less stressed.
Oh, thank you. Someone else.
Optimal state.
You took my notes. What did you? Yeah. Anyone else? Oh man.
Don't trigger like positive thoughts.
Ooh, positive force. Ooh. This is good, very good. Huh? Grey jacket? Do you have a grey jacket? He was agreeing. Let's go. Awesome, thank you guys. So I literally wrote down, well-being would be, to me, an optimal state where I'm living my best, feeling my best, and giving my best. Yeah, it's optimal state. That might look like ease and clarity. We all want more of that, right? And longevity. Ease and clarity in our life. Get to flow with things, yeah? Go with the flow. So, my first man here said stress. If we're interested in well-being, we could maybe interchange that word with high performance as well. You guys are probably interested in performing highly. Yeah? No? Yeah? So, a teacher of mine gave me a formula for high performance, very complex. It's your innate potential minus the interference. So you're already your highest performing being, but there might just be a few leaks going out. Yeah, like a colander. You fill up with water, the amount of holes there are means there's some vital force, some positive energy leaking out a bit. And that's fine, because that's this world we live in, and Katya said it great. This is a crazy world we live in. We evolved to deal with like a couple stressors a week. A lion rocks up and then there's a storm. Not getting messages and emails all day, every day, you know, getting stuck in the lift and getting honked out, and then Uber Eats is late. It's like, there's a lot going on, and we weren't built with an off switch. That would have been great. Just to flick off, pause, and let all of that intensity and pressure just simmer down. Then we're back in that state of just ease and calm. We can think clearly. So what's happening there is stress. And what we do is kind of a lot, and well-being. To look at well-being, we've got to look at the whole human, all of our aspects. So we've got the physical body, the mental body, the emotional body, the energetic body, and the spiritual body. And then everything else we're not even aware of yet. Yeah? So, to give you a little zoom out, I'm just going to talk about stress and how we can use the physical body to release stress, tune into a little bit more well-being, and then Kat's going to come up and talk about some other things. And how this fits into really nicely with Katya's talk there. She's talking about meditation. To me, meditation is like the goal, the key. I don't follow any particular type of meditation. I just sit there and watch what comes up. Let it flow through like clouds, and just sit there and never get it right. It's never perfect. Just sitting there. Just dealing with what comes up. Yeah? It's a practice, it's a muscle memory. One of the things that we focus on and we offer is kind of like a step before meditation, because a lot of your questions sound like you're trying to, and it's hard. Yeah, been there. It's hard for me still. That's because the overactive mind finds it very hard to calm down and stop. Why is that? We come back to stress. This is like one of the most profound things that I've learned in all my journey, is that in our nervous system, you take away the mental brain, in the mammalian body, in our nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, that responds to experiences and reacts to the regulation. You exist in one or two states, or on a spectrum between two states. We're either driving to survive, or we're longing to connect with our tribe. Yeah? You can't be longing to connect with everyone if you're over there. Now, driving to survive can be interchanged survival with stress. Your nervous system actually doesn't know what stress is. It just thinks, I'm not safe. That's huge. The nervous system doesn't know what stress is. It just thinks, I'm not safe. Yeah? So, if we want to meditate and we're sitting there and it's really busy and we're dysregulated in our nervous system, you're not going to be able to connect and slow down and calm down and be with the trees and the bees. You're going to feel all this stuff coming up and your mind's everywhere. I know it because I lived anxious and insecure most of my life until I found breath work. So, who's tried breath work before? Boom, epic. So, I'm going to take you guys through something if you like. Just something simple. There's been a lot of words tonight, a lot of like mind. We're looking to bring you down a little bit into the body. So, there's different practices that go top down, like psychology, cognitive behavioral therapy, NLP, talking, whatever. All this stuff's top down. That's great. We get to the root and go bottom up. Let's release the stress that's already held in the body, that's causing this dysregulation and stopping us from being able to connect with ourselves. I'll talk more because obviously I can just talk forever about this stuff afterwards, but let's do some breathing. Yeah? Very simple one. I'm going to flow with it, so we'll see what happens. We might do a few little exercises if that's cool with you. But particularly the first one, Huberman Lab, we've probably heard of him. He's gone through this one. If you've heard the podcast on breathing, it's called cyclical sighing. They've done research on this. 5 minutes of this per day will dramatically reduce levels of anxiety, aka stress, in your life. That's it. 5 minutes a day, dramatically reduce those states all day. Yeah. So that's what we got to do. I'll put some cool music on. We'll vibe out for a little bit. So if it feels comfortable for you now, we're going to start dropping in. You can leave your eyes open for a moment.